I came home early from work thinking I could surprise Kay. We'd been together for almost 3 years, living in a small downtown apartment. I worked long hours as a software developer at a startup, always buried in deadlines, while Kay juggled a part-time job as a teaching assistant while finishing her degree. Despite our hectic schedules, we always found time for each other. At least, that's what I thought. Sure, we had our occasional disagreements, but nothing that made me doubt our connection. That was until last Tuesday. I had a rare early finish at work due to a canceled meeting. I decided to pick up Kay's favorite takeout, hoping to make the evening special. It had been a stressful few months for both of us, and I thought a quiet night might be exactly what we needed. I felt a rush of relief as I parked in front of the building, takeout bags in hand, thinking of the simple joy of spending time with her. But as I climbed the stairs, something felt off. The door was slightly ajar. Kay was always so careful about locking up. My heart dropped, and a wave of unease washed over me, but I tried to dismiss it as nothing more than a small mistake. I stepped inside quietly, thinking she might be studying or just relaxing, but then I heard voices, Kay's and someone else's. At first, I assumed it was just a friend or a study session, but then I heard it. "He has no idea," Kay said, her voice sharp and cold. I froze, unsure what to make of it. The other voice, a man, replied, "Yeah, he works all the time. He wouldn't notice if I'm out with you. Besides, I've got him wrapped around my finger. Even if he did, I could talk my way out of it." My mind raced, trying to process what I was hearing, my heart pounding in my chest. I couldn't believe it, but it was real. Kay's next words cut deeper. "It's almost sad how easy it's been. The best part is he still thinks I'm stressed about school. That's why I've been distant. It's pathetic." I stood frozen, my hand gripping the takeout bags so tightly my knuckles were white. My stomach turned with a feeling of disbelief, like the world was crumbling around me. The guy laughed, and I heard the clink of a bottle being set down. "As long as it works out for us. Who cares, right? It's not like you're going to get caught." I couldn't take it anymore. Everything I thought I knew was shattered. I wanted to storm in and demand answers, confront them both, but something held me back. Maybe it was the fact that they didn't even know I was there, that I could walk away without them ever finding out. Or maybe it was the truth, that no confrontation would change anything. Kay had already betrayed me, and that was the reality I had to face. I turned and walked out as quietly as I could, the door clicking shut behind me. My mind was in a blur. I didn't know where I was going, only that I couldn't go back to that apartment. It didn't feel like home anymore. I ended up at a friend's place. Someone Kay didn't know well enough to track me down. I crashed on his couch, unable to process the mess my life had become. The next morning, I blocked Kay on everything. My phone, social media, email, anything I could think of. I didn't want her reaching out. I didn't want explanations or apologies. I wanted nothing to do with her. For those few days, my phone was bombarded with messages and calls, all from her. At first, she was confused, then apologetic, and eventually desperate. She even showed up at my office. One message read, "Please, let's talk. I can explain everything. It's not what you think. I love you." I didn't respond. How could I? How do you respond to someone who could betray you so easily, then try to twist the narrative as if you somehow misunderstood the betrayal you overheard? I wasn't mistaken. It was painfully clear that she wasn't just cheating on me physically. She was actively humiliating me behind my back. She had no respect for me, for us, or for what we had built together. As time went on, she kept trying to reach out, sending messages through our mutual friends, telling them how frantic she was, how desperate she was to talk. They had no idea about what I had heard that night. I didn't tell anyone. The betrayal itself was humiliating enough. I didn't need to broadcast it. Then, a week later, I found out who the guy was. It wasn't some guy from work or a random person. No, it was one of my own colleagues. The guy who had been sitting right there in my living room, laughing about how clueless I was. He worked in the same office as I did. How had I not seen it before? Maybe I had seen him around with her, brushed it off because I trusted her. But now everything clicked. The way she'd talk about him, mention him casually like he was just a harmless part of her daily routine. She had even suggested once that we invite him for drinks. At the time, I never thought twice about it. Now, I found out he was in a relationship too, cheating on his girlfriend just like Kay had been cheating on me. It felt like some twisted game to them, and I had been the fool sitting on the sidelines, completely unaware. At first, I thought about confronting him, but then I realized something. He wasn't worth my time. Neither was she. I was done with both of them. Dragging things out into a big, dramatic confrontation wasn't going to change anything or make me feel better. It wouldn't fix the betrayal. So a few days later, Kay showed up at my friend's place. She must have figured out where I was through mutual connections. She banged on the door, crying and begging me to let her in. My friend asked what I wanted to do, and I told him to let her in. When she walked in, she was a mess. Her mascara smeared, her eyes swollen from crying, her hands shaking as if she was scared. But I didn't feel a shred of sympathy for her. She started with the usual apologies, claiming it was a mistake, that she was confused, that the guy didn't mean anything, that it was just a moment of weakness. The more she spoke, the more I realized that she was still manipulating me, still trying to control the narrative. She didn't even admit to the affair at first, just kept saying things like, "It wasn't like that," and "I never meant to hurt you." Finally, I interrupted her. I couldn't take it anymore. My voice was cold as I said, "You didn't know, but I was there listening to you laugh about me." Her face went pale, and for a moment, she stopped talking. I could see the realization sink in. She knew. She knew there was no way out of this. I stood up, walked to the door, and opened it. "We're done," I said. "There's nothing left to say." She tried to protest, rushed toward me, but my friend stepped between us. She collapsed in the hallway, sobbing, begging me to take her back, swearing that she would never do it again and that she loved me. But I was done. I had nothing left for her. I walked out of her life without a second glance, leaving her crying on the floor. The strange thing was, as devastated as I felt in that moment, there was this sense of relief that washed over me, like I had finally ripped off a painful Band-Aid that had been festering for far too long. Yes, it hurt. The pain was raw, intense, and soul-crushing. But the weight of the deceit and humiliation was gone. I wasn't being played anymore. I wasn't the fool. After that day, she stopped trying. The calls, the texts, they all stopped. I think she finally realized there was no getting me back. Maybe she moved on to someone else or spiraled into guilt. But I didn't care. What mattered was that I was free. I was finally free from the lies and the web she had woven around me for so long. But there was one thing I hadn't anticipated: my work situation. That was a whole different story. In the heat of the moment, I considered quitting my job, just walking away from everything. But then I realized, why should I let them ruin my life? Why should I let them destroy my career just because of their selfish decisions? I had worked too hard to get to where I was, and I wasn't going to let them take it from me. So I decided to stay. But just because I stayed didn't mean I would let him get away with it. The next week, I walked into the office like everything was fine. On the outside, I seemed completely normal, but there was an undeniable tension in the air. He avoided me at all costs. If we crossed paths in the hallway, he'd look the other way. In meetings, he wouldn't meet my eyes. He acted like I was about to explode at any moment, waiting for me to lash out at him. But I didn't give him that satisfaction. Instead, I took a different route. I went to HR, calmly, quietly, and gathered every shred of evidence I had. It wasn't just about me. It was about the other people in the office who might have been affected by his behavior. His girlfriend worked in the same building, and she had no idea what was going on. Office affairs weren't just frowned upon. They were against company policy, especially when they involved manipulation and deceit. The fallout was swift. His girlfriend found out before HR could even act, and word spread fast. By the end of the week, he was gone, fired. His reputation was in tatters. I felt no satisfaction from it, though. It wasn't about winning or revenge. It was about restoring balance, about removing the toxic elements in my life. I kept my head down, focus on my work, and made it clear to anyone who might have doubted me that I wasn't the type of person to be messed with again. Even though I had handled everything calmly and methodically, I didn't feel like a hero. There was no triumphant moment, no sense of victory. Instead, it was a cold satisfaction, the kind you feel when a weight is finally lifted, when you realize that the worst is over. What surprised me the most, though, was how quickly I moved on. I thought the betrayal would haunt me for months, maybe even years. But after just a few weeks, the fog lifted. It was like I wasn't the same person anymore. I didn't feel like the guy who had been cheated on. I felt lighter, freer, like I had learned something valuable about myself, about my own limits. I had learned how much I was willing to tolerate from someone who was supposed to love me. For so long, I had put Kay on a pedestal, convinced myself that she was perfect, that we were perfect together. I ignored the signs, the late nights with flimsy excuses, the way she pulled away when I tried to get closer, the growing distance between us. I ignored it all because I didn't want to face the truth. The truth was, our relationship had been broken for a long time, and I had been too blind to see it. I won't say I've forgiven her, or him. Maybe I never will. But I've learned to let go. Holding on to the past only keeps you stuck in it. I've shifted my focus to the things I can control, like my own happiness. Trusting again is harder now, and it will take time before I can trust someone the way I once did. But that's okay. I'll get there in my own time. If there's one thing I've learned from all of this, it's that people can be incredibly selfish, but they can also be resilient. I'm not the same person I was before I overheard that conversation. I'm tougher now, smarter. I know my worth, and I won't let anyone treat me like that again.